Hello Movie Mavens, welcome back to another video on the B Movies channel. My name is Bailey and I put the B in movies. I hope you are having a good week. I'm actually having a really good week this week. Sorry that today's video is late, which you will obviously know because you are seeing this on a Saturday. I just had a very good but very busy week, and so we got a little behind on filming. Thank you for being patient and for understanding. And now that things have kind of settled down a little bit, we should be back to our regular schedule. But again, sometimes this may happen. It comes with the territory. So for this week's Bailey Babbles, I just want to talk about being yourself. And I know how cliche that is and how after school especially it is. But when I was growing up, I was like I am now. Like, I wore unique clothes. I have very eclectic interests. Like, we know this. Like, I love everything from brutally intense horror movies to cult indie movies to Sabrina Carpenter to Monster High dolls to Taylor Swift to The Adventures of Pete and Pete. And so I've always been kind of how I am now. And my mom would always paraphrase Practical Magic to me, the whole why do you try to fit in when you were born to stand out mentality. And the older that I get, the more I realize how she and the aunts from Practical Magic were right. And I just want to tell you, like, don't try to fit in. I've been there. There are times where I wore things I didn't really want to wear because I thought it would help me fit in better in a workplace or with a group of friends, or just wherever. There were times that I pretended to like things that with some things, like, it worked out well because I'm like, oh, I actually really like this artist, I really like this movie. But there were times, like, I've lied to, like, people that I liked about things I liked. And just the older I get, I would say probably the past, like, 6 or 7 years, I've just really started to understand that, like, sometimes you don't fit in with other people and you don't have to, like, wear the same clothes and like the same things. What matters is how those people treat you and how you treat them, and the right people will love you the way you are and see you standing out as a positive thing. If you're a big personality, you will find your people and you will find those places. And so I just want to tell you firsthand, like, after the week that I've had some really positive experiences with some things I was nervous about. And yeah, I just want to remind you, like, it's okay to stand out, wear what you want to wear. It's obviously, like, if you have a dress code at work or school or whatever, like, obviously abide by that. Excuse me. But, just don't let people tell you who you are, I think, is the best thing to say. And so that's the Bailey Babble I want to start out with. I know it's super cliche, super cheesy, but it's just sometimes a good reminder to get, is just to be yourself. So with the Bailey Babbles out of the way, I want to go ahead and let everyone know up top, this video is going to be on the shorter side. There just weren't a lot of content releases this week. There weren't a lot of film releases this week. I'm going to go see The Watchers this weekend, actually, finally. I am apprehensive, but I'm still gonna go. And so and there's some new content out that I want to talk about, but I haven't had the chance to, like, fully dive in yet. So we are going to talk about a couple things, but just a heads up, this video is going to be a little bit on the shorter side, but then next week we should come in with a little bit beefier of a video with, just as a teaser, my review of The Watchers and things like that. So, for those who are new here, the B Movies channel, we're just a continuation of the B Movies blog, which is bmovies.blog. It's run by me and my friend Elliot. And you can find new pieces every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Say this every time. Sometimes I'd fight with WordPress because it needs me to go in there just as a reminder to push that blog out. But Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. You can also subscribe to have them sent directly to your inbox. And we also post daily on the B Movies blog Instagram, which is just at bmovies.blog. At B Movies channel, good grief, over on Instagram. And yeah, so we're going to start with our blog roundup. So over on the B Movies blog this week, you can find pieces about some of my favorite queer horror movies. This and the other queer movies piece from this week, it was really hard for me to narrow this down. So just know these are just some, like, please use these lists as like a jumping off point, because there's so much more queer content out there that I would recommend. But it's just, I don't want to make y'all a list that has like 75 movies on it. Like, I know sometimes we go a little bit big with like the Dollar Tree movies and things like that, but I don't ever just want to give y'all a list of like 75 movies. So use this as a jumping off point. On Tuesday, we talked about the Centrifuge Brain Project, which I'll admit, like, I was late to the game on this one. Like, I didn't know this short film existed until there was a YouTube video. I don't remember. It was either Nexpo or Kylie Bogley who did it. I don't remember which. I want to say it was probably Kylie, but I couldn't find, when I was like looking for it, I couldn't find what I was looking for. And so I just think the short film really kind of laid a lot of groundwork for a lot of things we see with horror ARGs and analog horror. Like, it reminds me a lot of Liminal Land. I can definitely see, excuse me, honestly, even a little bit of Midwest Angelica in it. And so I just thought it was a really cool short film to revisit, because it was definitely ahead of its time. It came out in 2011. And to see it now and like think about a lot of how YouTube horror has been shaped, it's crazy. So on Wednesday, we talked about some of my favorite queer horror movies. Again, it was really hard to narrow it down, right? Like, there are so many good horror movies made by queer directors, with queer actors, with queer storylines, or that are queer coded. And so, again, use this list as a jumping off point. Please, like, do your research, look at other lists, because there are so many more good ones out there. Like even Bride of Frankenstein, This Old House, there are a ton of queer horror movies, like James Whale horror movies from the 20s and 30s. So, again, use this as a jumping off point. On Thursday, I paid homage to one of my friends and I used to play this game called But Make It Gay, where we would take a movie plot line and we would make it more LGBTQI plus focused. And so that's what we're going to do our deep dive on today, is talk about that. But I really enjoyed doing this and kind of sharing this little nugget with all of you. And then on Friday, we did a spotlight on Lily Tomlin. I mean, for a lot of us, she was the voice of our childhood with Miss Frizzle. I grew up watching 9 to 5. I loved Grace and Frankie. She's just awesome. And so I wanted to spotlight her, as she is a excuse me, I thought I was going to say, as she is a lesbian actor, comedian, everything. So just to recap, this week over on the B Movies blog, you can find some of my favorite queer horror movies, the Centrifuge Brain Project, some of my favorite queer horror movies, But Make It Gay, and Lily Tomlin Spotlight. So next up, we have our Bite Size Sunday teaser, which, if you're new, Bite Size Sundays are little reviews that live over on the B Movies Instagram, which is just at B Movies channel, same as our YouTube. You can only get the teaser here on YouTube, so it's a perk of subscribing to the channel. And those are usually posted around 8 or 9 a.m. CT on Sunday mornings. So for this week's Bite Size Sunday, I'm about to sneeze, oh my gosh. Whew. Sorry, my allergy, I don't know what it is. I don't know, my fellow allergy sufferers, if your allergies are really bad this summer, mine usually aren't bad in the summer, but they've been awful this summer so far, and I don't know what is going on. But whew. Okay. Sorry. My allergies are just... Anyway, so shout out to my fellow allergy sufferers. Mine are really bad this summer too. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of environmental factors that could be getting us. But anyway, so this week's Bite Size Sunday is We're Not in Bridgerton Anymore. And I'm actually really excited to talk about this, because I will give you kind of another hint of Tubi's original content. I just want to give a shout out to Tubi really quick for some of now the original content. It's hit or miss, right? But the thing is, like, even in some, like, I watched for those who don't know, my personal Instagram, if you don't follow me there, I'm doing a movie a day challenge where I watch a movie every single day and post about it on Instagram, which I will probably never do again. But it's been fun. But I will probably not do this again next year. Um, Even with some of the Tubi originals that are unhinged, it's still unhinged to the point that it's so off the wall that you still have fun. And so what I like about the Tubi original stuff right now is some of it is actually really good. Like Slay is a really good horror movie. I would say it's great. I mean, it's, like I've said, it's like Tu Wong Fu meets From Dusk Till Dawn. This thing that we're going to talk about is also very good. But what I really appreciate about the Tubi original is that they're taking really big swings and they're taking chances. And that's what I really like about the Tubi original. Now, is it all good? Questionable. But I still like Clickbait Unfollowed I watched. It's unhinged, but it's like, I think it's unintentional camp at times. And so I still thought it was fun. I still had a good time with Blood, Sweat, and Tear, even though it is completely unhinged and inappropriate and just buck wild. And so that's what I just want to give it a shout out to, because this is also a Tubi creation that we're going to be talking about. So, with all of the housekeeping out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this week's deep dive, which is But Make It Gay. And so, But Make It Gay is a game I used to play with one of my friends, where we would each pick a movie and just kind of talk through, like, how we could make the storyline more LGBTQI focused. So, like, for example, take The Princess Bride is the example that I use in the piece. So, you could change, like, Wesley to Winnie, and she and Buttercup could be in love. You could make Buttercup non-binary. Fezzik would obviously be a bear. Prince Humperdinck could be Princess Humperdinck, or again, another non-binary character. You could change it however you want to, and, make a movie that's traditionally, like, very cis or very straight or very, like a traditional gender stereotype film, and make it LGBTQI plus centric. And I think it's fun for two reasons. First of all, it's just something fun to do with one of your friends or a friend and just talk about, like, all these different films, and then, you can dive into, like, the history of queer film and a lot of different queer filmmakers and cinema. But I also think that this game serves a deeper purpose in that we've obviously seen an uptick in queer storylines over the past few years, but I mean, it's still, the representation is still not where it needs to be at all. And I think that by showing how easy it is to take these, like, classic films and change the storyline to incorporate more LGBTQI plus characters and stories, that the material's already there. You know what I mean? Like, there's already material to play off of. Why can we not create a queer storyline in this film without it feeling forced? Like, there's a lot of potential there. And so I think that this too, for me at least, I was like, oh wow, it is that easy just to take a storyline and to make it to like, make it more representative of minorities and of, just the LGBTQI plus experience. And so some of the examples from the piece are, like, for example, practical magic. In my mind, Aunt Frances and Aunt Jet have always had, to me, like, big lesbian aunt energy, right? And so I think it would be cool. Let's make them a couple. And then they go to live, Jilly and Sally go to live with them when their parents pass away. I see Jillian as, like, being very open and pansexual, Sally being closeted, either a closeted lesbian or just, a closeted pansexual, queer, however she wants to identify. And then I see Officer Hallett being non-binary or a lesbian, and I think that could be a really cool spin on this story that we all love, and it's that easy to make it an LGBTQ plus storyline. Or like another example, you've got male. Super easy. Just plug in more representation to that storyline. Instead of Joe Fox, it could be Joanna Fox, or she could go by Joe. It's that easy to make these storylines, and there's so much going on in the world right now that's terrifying, and that, like I said last week, like, if you don't support the LGBTQI plus community, like, we're not the channel for you. And, that's your decision. But Elliot and I are both LGBTQI plus, and so I just think it's important to write these pieces and to call out, like, how easy it is to incorporate this material. And I know, again, that studios and, there are so many politics with things. I just think it's ridiculous because there is an audience for these movies, and just there's so many movies already. Like Scream is another one that already is very queer coded. Kevin Williamson, is a gay screenwriter and director. And I just think that it's important to do things like this. And, yeah, is it all in good fun? Yeah, like, it's fun to do. But at the same time, I think it shows that there's an audience for representation, and that you can take these storylines, and, like, some people will argue it compromises the storyline. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. So that is But Make It Gay you can read. There are more examples over on the B Movies blog, and I will always link this week's pieces in the description box below. So feel free to give those a read, and we'll go ahead and move on to our special features for this week. Special features, these are another perk of subscribing to the channel. These are reviews that I may not necessarily put on the blog. It's reserved for updates on all of our favorite horror ARGs and analog horror series. And again, it's just a perk to subscribing to the YouTube channel, because we may not talk about some of these outside of here. So, the first thing I want to talk about in today's special features, I want to talk about the documentary Summer Qamp. I can't recommend this documentary enough. It's just so heartwarming to see these kids thrive in a space that's so supportive for them, and it's also so heartbreaking to hear some of their stories and to see that some of them don't receive this support anywhere else, or, mom and dad may be supportive of one element of how they identify, but not another. And it's so good. And it honestly makes me really hopeful for the future, because hearing how some of these kids have persevered and how open they are, I laughed, I cried, like, I felt every emotion possible. And just as someone who didn't come out until my early 20s, I would have loved a camp like this as a kid. Like, I would have loved having this. And so I truly can't recommend this documentary enough. Trigger warning and content warning for talk about self-harm, a boot, bullying, and all like topics. But if those aren't CWs or TWs for you, I definitely recommend checking this out. It's streaming on Peacock right now, and I can't recommend it enough. It's heartbreaking, it's heartwarming, it's just wonderful. So next up, I want to talk about Hitman. So I've already caught a little bit of flack for my opinion about Hitman, but just hear me out first before let me finish first. I really enjoyed this movie, period. Hard stop. I enjoyed this movie. I also need Glenn Powell in a biblical sense, but that is a different discussion for a different day. I am knee-deep in my generic white boy limbo phase. Himbo phase is what I meant to say. Limbo, good grief. Whew, you can tell I've had a busy week. I'm like knee-deep in my himbo phase right now. And I think Glenn Powell is a wonderful actor. I have loved Glenn Powell since Scream Queens, because for those, if you've not made that connection, he was Chad Radwell in Scream Queens. I think he's a very good actor. I think he's very funny. I just think the first half of this movie is noticeably stronger than the second half. I still think Glenn Powell is phenomenal in this movie. I think it really shows, if there was any question on his acting abilities, that he has it. I still fully recommend this movie. I just personally, I wanted to love it a lot more. And to me, the second half just took me out a little bit. Took me out of the world a little bit. That's all. I still recommend it. I still think it's a good movie. But that is just my opinion. And again, I think Glenn Powell's great. I think this entire cast was great. I think the writing is good. I am a Richard Linklater fan. Love Dazed and Confused. Love School of Rock. Love Bernie. Love Slacker. I also live in Austin, so like that's it's a staple. But like, I that's my opinion. Is I just think the second half is a little bit weaker. That's all. But I still recommend it. It is now streaming on Netflix. But obviously, if you can right now, please support your local theaters. I know that they are all really struggling right now, so it is still showing in a lot of theaters. So go to the movies if you can. If not, totally understand that. I've been there. So it is streaming on Netflix. So definitely, if one of your friends has Netflix, maybe have a movie night at their place and check it out. I do still recommend it. I just think the second half is a little bit weaker. Anyway, caught a little bit of flack, but I don't think it's a bad movie. So last up, we have subtitles, which are just little pieces of pop culture news around the internet. And again, we are getting a lot of announcements this summer, so buckle up. I have several for you. Really excited about a lot of these. So first up, J.G. Quintel has announced a regular show spinoff. I love his series because I watched regular show and I watched it's the one on HBO where it's the family and they live with their friends. It's so good. Oh god, I'm blanking, but it's really good. I really enjoyed it, so I'm really excited to see the spinoff show. And he has announced that there will be some of the same characters returning, or they will make appearances throughout the spinoff. We have a lot of animation news, fair warning, this episode, which I will never be mad at. Warner Brothers has announced a Scooby-Doo anime where Scooby and Shaggy go to Japan, which I'm very interested to see how that turns out. More animation news. There are apparently an Adventure Time movie and spinoff show in development. And I know that Rebecca Sugar, who did Steven Universe, is also signed up to work on it, so I'm very excited. Tina Romero, aka George A. Romero's daughter, is directing and writing a movie called Queens of the Dead, which is it's like going to be set at a drag club, and they're going to be zombies. And so what more could we possibly need? On a sad note, Francois Hardy, who is a French singer, has passed away at the age of 80. R.I.P. One of my friends actually named her dog after Francois, so R.I.P. to Francois Hardy. Disney has announced a new spooky cartoon called The Doomies that to me it seems very Gravity Falls coded, and I'm very excited about it. The first looks look very cool. Eric Kripke has announced that The Boys will end next season with season 5, so we are currently in the penultimate season. The first 3 episodes of season 4 are available right now on Prime to watch. I have watched all of them. Fair warning, they're beefy. Like, the first episode's like over an hour. It's like an hour and 5 or 10 minutes long. So just know I was not mentally prepared. I had not set enough time aside to watch those, so just a heads up, they are beefy episodes. And I really like the direction that we're going. Olivia Holt, and who you may know from Cruel Summer, and Mason Gooding, who is part of the core 4 in the new Scream movies, will star in Heart Eyes, which is a horror rom-com written by Michael Kennedy and Christopher Landon, with Josh Rubin set to direct. So I think it's gonna be good. If you're not familiar, Christopher Landon has directed Freaky. He's directed a bunch of stuff. And then Josh Rubin directed Scare Me, which was one of my favorite movies to come out in 2020. I love that movie. I think it's great. It's him, and I can't think of her name, but it's the gal from the boys. And he also directed Werewolves Within, which I enjoyed. So I'm actually really looking forward to this movie. A second season of the British dark comedy Such Brave Girls is on the way. So here's the thing. I love this show. It's very dark humor. So, like, content warning and trigger warning. There's a lot of talk about suicide, um, ideation. They kind of make fun of mental health. It's very dark. It's very British, but I really like it. And so, if you like shows like Am I Being Unreasonable, definitely check this one out. A White Collar reboot will soon grace our screens because we're in the land of the reboots. The episode titles for the final season of The Umbrella Academy have been announced and are as follows: The Unbearable Tragedy of Getting What You Want, Gene and Jean, The Squid and the Girl, The Cleanse, 6 Years, 5 Months, and 2 Days, and End of the Beginning. So I'm very excited. I am an Umbrella Academy girly, so I am very excited. I'm sad to see it end, but I think that we've gotten a lot out of this series, and I would rather series end on a good note than a bad note. Talking to you, How I Met Your Mother. Anyway, Blumhouse has officially launched Blumhouse Games, which will release a lot of horror games, so excited to see where that goes. A new Hunger Game book and movie are on the way called The Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping. It will focus on Haymitch's game. So again, very excited for that. People have been clamoring for a Haymitch-centric film, and so I'm really excited to see who they get to play young Haymitch, because I think there are a lot of really good potential casting options there. The book People Collide is being adapted into a film with Abby Jacobson at the helm. Love her, so very excited to see what she does with this. A sequel to Practical Magic is on the way, and Nicole Kidman has confirmed she and Sandra Bullock will both be returning for it. So Practical Magic is one of my comfort movies. I love that movie. So I am a bit nervous. I will obviously go see the new one, but I am a little nervous about this because it's one of those untouchable pieces of comment to me. But again, like I say, I always give things a chance, and so we'll see what happens. And then finally, David Howard Thornton, aka Art the Clown, has been announced as as Steamboat Willie in the upcoming Mickey Mouse horror movie Screamboat. So y'all, look, listen, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, I had such a good time with it. I still need to see the second one. I think these are really fun, and we all know, like, I personally don't believe, like, a film has to have intrinsic value. Like, there are so many movies I'm excited about this summer, everything from Long Legs to Twisters, and so I just love movies, and so as long as I have a good and fun time with, as long as I have a good and fun time with it, that's all I'm asking for. So I'm very intrigued to see how some of these are going to turn out, because we're in, like, the dark storybook and, like, Disney character revival, because there's, like, Bambi the Reckoning coming out, there's the Pinocchio one, I think there's a Tinkerbell one. So we'll see how it all turns out. But I think that will do us for today. Feel free to follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Lisa_Frankenstein_. Feel free to follow Elliot at .reading.with.red. Feel free to follow us over on Instagram, just at bmovies channel, same as our YouTube. And feel free to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. It's free. Give us a like if you feel so inclined, and leave a comment if you're feeling frisky. And so I think on that note, all that's left to do is fade to black.